LCW Allingham is a Philadelphia area author, artist, and editor. Her short fiction has appeared in numerous anthologies, and she is the co-founder and executive editor of the indie press Speculation Publications. Her horror novella, Muse, and her debut historical novel, Lady, will both be out in 2024. LCW, whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm LC, and I will be reading you guys the intro of my upcoming dark fantasy novella, Muse. It comes out April 9th, and I will be giving away an e-copy of this, as well as an e-copy of the Spec Pub feminist horror anthology, Incubate. Glonseal's done. Dried up, Mr. Black said, tapping the tips of his long fingers together at the head of the mahogany table. She hasn't painted so much as a dandelion since May. She might have something left in her, Mr. Green said. She was talking about sunflowers when I spoke to her last night. The paneled room was kept dim, the tall windows blocked by thick velvet drapes. Narrow, red, tapered candles from the grand chandelier provided flickering light. She's done, agreed Mr. Silver. The candlelight caught streaks of gold in his dark blonde hair. Cut her off. So is Jackson, said Mr. Black. The next exhibition will be his last. Leek Jackson said he's working on an entirely new concept. Mr. Green pinched his thin lips together and worked his thumbnail underneath the table where he found the familiar dent he had created over the years. If he doesn't produce in a month, he's no good to us. We'll wait and see how he does. Mr. Black drummed his long fingers on the table to indicate the decision was made. Fleck is still going strong, Mr. Green suggested. I previewed his new pastel collection last month. It's magnificent. Not magnificent enough. Mr. Silver shook his head. I'm disappointed with Fleck. He seemed like he was going to be a long haul. When was the last time we had a long haul? Mr. Black frowned, the lines around his mouth folding into deep creases that hinted at his age. Too long, said Mr. Silver. If you would just give them a chance. Mr. Green started, but under the glare of his associates, he withered into his seat. More talent, then, Mr. Black said. Better talent. Better and bankable, agreed Mr. Silver. Cedric Fleck has only started, Mr. Green said, his gray eyes shining with what could have been mistaken as tears. He's going down fast, said Mr. Black. Too fast, said Mr. Silver. He still does have a spark left in him, Mr. Black added, his lip curling slightly as if he was practicing his smoldering looks right there at the table. But the way he goes, it won't be long. Find someone new. Something fresh. Something powerful. Mr. Green stood abruptly, taking a minute to adjust the lapels of his bespoke Italian suit coat before stalking out of the dark conference room. After slamming the door of the Manhattan brownstone, Mr. Silver yawned and leaned back in his chair. He's too sensitive. He always has been, Mr. Black said, but he is the best. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Still, I wonder if he won't become a problem. If he does, we'll address it, Mr. Black said. We thrive and fall together, and Mr. Green very much wants to thrive. The net was cast wide, Miami, Kansas City, country clubs and youth groups, each whisper, examined, cataloged, and thrown back to sea. Mr. Green would know when he found his white whale, but until he did, he traveled through sticky stops and sweltering stations, packed in with the sweating masses, slogging through their art-starved lives. He rested each night in five-star hotels with $40 martinis and Egyptian cotton sheets. He moved through the faceless swarms, waiting for a tug on the line. Mr. Green dozed in a bus station, wavering on an old dream of the French countryside, the taste of mud in his mouth, the stench of marsh in his nostrils when the line went live. The sudden jolt so hard and sharp it nearly yanked him from his tacky plastic chair. A buzz ran up his legs, and his dreams faded into his senses, filled with clean, green scent of spring in early bloom. That old bastard welder I work with, a neo-hipster punk in a bus terminal, said into his phone. No, the one who's always carting around the art supplies. Dude lives in double wide in Park Flats, jacked as shit. but he's all over at the craft store on his lunch break. Nah, he says it's for his neighbor. When the young man got off the phone, Mr. Green leaned back, smiling disarmingly. Excuse me, sir. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help but overhear something you said. You see, I'm an art dealer. He reached into his suit and pulled out his business card and a $50 bill. A traded bus ticket, another odorous ride, then a cab to a mud pit in the middle of the sticks. The line got brighter the closer he came, the promise of ripe fruit, like a lure shining just below the surface of a lake. Mr. Green's neck closed, and he pulled it in, finding himself at the dirty, dented door of the ancient modular home of Miss Tara Desmarais. 2 trailers in Park Flats mobile home community had somehow shifted closer to each other over the years. One belonged to Jim Megas, a middle-aged second-shift welder and the meanest old bastard anyone had ever met. The other was occupied by a skinny girl with dishwater-colored hair and big black eyes so unsettling that her neighbors went out of her way to avoid her. Her name was Tara Desmarais, but her neighbors called her the Flats Witch. These 2 villains of the trailer park seemed to get along well with each other. Sometimes Jim left a bag of groceries on the step of the girl's narrow modular, and sometimes the girl left bottles of Old Granddad on the steps of Jim's double wide. No one had ever heard the witch speak, but it seemed she talked to Jim, and it seemed Jim talked about her to somebody, somewhere, and just what it was that she did inside her trailer. When Mr. Green showed up at the door of Tara Desmarais' modular, she let him in. After all, he was a swanky man wearing a suit and shiny shoes flecked with trailer park mud, and she was just Tara, the Flats Witch, a shut-in with no job and only one friend. I think there's some sort of confusion here, she said. I don't got nothing you'd be looking to be buying. Mr. Green brushed past her and saw she was lying. Tara Desmarais' trailer was cluttered with paintings like he'd never seen in his very long life. Cheap craft store temperas that were so vivid and so unique that he froze mid-stride, waiting or gazing upon their glory. Miss Desmarais worked in abstract, such beautiful compositions that he nearly cried right there in her trailer. There were colors he'd never seen before, structures he'd never dreamed of, each piece a poem, a song, a wretched and rejoicing moment of life. His heart lifted and he plummeted with the butterfly queasiness of a roller coaster. Raw talent, undiscovered and ignorant, and he had found her. She would be his, not Black's, not Silver's. He would be the one to take her, to keep her until he was sure she could withstand their greedy needs. Thank you.